Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. And today I'm sitting down with Justin Rondeau, who is the co-owner and president of Invisible PPC and the co-founder of PPC Reveal. So excited to be chatting about a number of different things from business to entrepreneurship to just this crazy journey that many of us are on. So first and foremost, Justin, thank you for being here. I'm excited to dive in. Why don't we just start with a little bit of background? Give us kind of the 10,000 foot view of who you are and tell us a little bit about the business.
Yeah, man. So, gosh, I think I remember getting into this business, almost 15 years ago, being like, I'm like the young guy and those things. Now I'm like becoming like the old dude in it, which is kind of weird. But I got my start in this whole like kind of like entrepreneur world, like really in the marketing space. I was actually kind of more or less, I think, the quintessential entrepreneur for most of my career up until recently. I'd always been like the guy behind the guy or the guy behind the gal or whoever. Like I just did the work and just kind of existed there. And I was happy doing it. Less risk involved in that for sure when you go that route. But, you're still putting a lot of time in for no real equity into any sort of any meaningful equity at that point. So, gosh, what was it? I'd been in the space working for folks like Ryan Dice, who's in like the digital marketing world, like kind of doing that type of stuff. Did that for about 7 years. Launched a couple of software companies. That's how I started dipping my toes into it. And then I ended up partnering up with my business partner Avi Kumar a couple of years back, and he really was the one that showed me like I need to stop working for other people and start start working for myself. I was running growth and acquisition at teamwork.com at that point in time, and he was like, "Hey man, you should just kind of work like we should partner up. Let's go do this thing. There's this agency that's for sale right now that I think we should purchase, and it'd be great to have you come in on it." And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's time. It's about time to do this thing. And so that's when we had gone through the purchase process for Invisible PPC. So IPPC is a white label agency. If you're not familiar with the concept of white labeling, it's essentially it is outsourced work where we do all the work and you maintain the relationship and then maintain the profits at that point. So you don't have to hire internal talent. You have like highly vetted like talent from people like for, that aren't like freelance talent where you can run into kind of some issues there. But yeah, so if you're new to the concept of white labeling, essentially our services, you're just marking up and selling as your own if you're in the agency space. Um, Saw that had a great brand in it. Rob Warner did a great job building that brand up. Great book of business or like ranked amazingly organically, and then just kind of went through that whole acquisition process, which is its own conversation. And yeah, and then since then we've been building the business over the last almost just over 2 years now at this point since the purchase, but it's been around 11 years. So a lot of legacy stuff in there for us to play around with and to optimize and maximize from.
Oh, that is so cool. There's so many things in there that I just want to double click on and go a little bit deeper with. But the first one, let's start with a pretty simple, just generalized one. Then we'll kind of dive into a few other things. So being a part of this business now, growing it over the last couple of years, I'm curious for you and what does your role look like? How many different hats do you
Yeah.
get to wear in the business day? We'll use that positive
Yeah.
framework of get to wear, but what does that look like for you in the business?
Yeah, so we kind of broke up the business into a few key departments. Like I live in everything that's kind of like marketing, sales, growth area. And so like I run those teams. Fortunately, we have a more mature business from acquiring it and from previous business that my business partner had, where we had kind of the staff in place and a lot of those other things. So we have skilled people in those positions. So it's not like, hey, I have this idea now I have to go do it all myself. But I'm still running a lot of like I think strategy and ideation still. I mean, first thing I did when we bought the business was I started taking all the sales calls. First thing
Mm.
I did. I take maybe 5% of them still because I'd like to know what the heck's going on and what people are talking about. But I'm kind of running that like everything from people learning about the brand or finding us via ads, content, anything along those lines, all the way through the close process, and not just getting someone who's like, hey, I want to pay you like to use your white label case studies and become a partner. It's like it's our responsibility not just to get them into partnership, but then also to get them to sign their first client with us. So
Mm.
that's that entire process is kind of run by me at that stage.
Very cool. And so let's talk about this process of buying a business, buying into a business rather than just starting something from scratch. That's one of the things I love about, this conversation series is I have the ability to talk to, founders that just are in their startup phase and moving through that, and then talking with, legacy owned businesses that have been around for a long time. And I don't think there's enough conversation around the process of buying an existing business and being able to grow it from there. So what led to that choice versus starting something
Mhm.
for your own?
Starting from scratch takes a lot of time and is very expensive. It's just you pay that expense over time, right? If you have the cash flow and the ability to invest in something that makes sense for your kind of like your overarching goals, like for us, we were in the service space. What better way to not only just help us on our own fulfillment side of things, but also have another service offering than to get a to own one of the biggest white label agencies in the space, right? That was really the thought process there, where we're like, hey, like if we wanted to build this on our own through trial and error, we would spend much more money and much more time trying to figure this out. Why don't we just get the client base, get the SOPs, get all the technology required to do it, and then just run it? So that was really kind of the process there. Because could someone spin out like a white label agency on their own? Absolutely. Will they be able to hit growth targets that we're able to hit because we have a mature business that now has a new perspective and new kind of like growth ideas and kind of just new management kind of running this thing? Absolutely not. They're not gonna be able to outpace us at that point. So yeah, that was kind of the overall rationale.
I love it. And I appreciate you sharing some of that because, like I said, I think it's an important area for many to consider if they're in business or thinking about being in business. So when y'all purchased it, you got into this business, started growing it. So you mentioned taking over all the sales calls. Yeah, it's one of the first
Mhm.
things that you did, and then eventually kind of graduating out to doing about 5% of it today. What were some of the areas that you saw were tremendous opportunity as where you could kind of use your skill set and your knowledge to be able to improve, whether it be the process or the types of clients it goes after, or whatever those is? What were the opportunity areas that you saw that allowed you to continue to grow the business?
Some of them are opportunities and some of them are mistakes. So and I'll share both. Uh, the the first thing that we recognized is actually we held off doing any sort of major growth initiatives for the first maybe 3 to 6 months. What we wanted to do was better understand like the customer base and understand the process and like what they liked, what they hated, what like outside of like your initial due diligence. Like they're like once you're in, now you're in, and so you're getting everything, good, bad, ugly, otherwise. And we had realized that there were some significant opportunities on the operation side of things. It was, I mean, how white label agencies work is they're fairly low touch. We think that at this point in time, it was too low touch. So how do we increase some of those touch points to maintain retention? How do we make sure people don't feel like they paid us money and they're like, where did they go? Even if we're doing work, like it's all about, especially in the service space, it's all about, it's like consistent communication. If you're doing those
Mhm.
things and you're getting results, or you're explaining how you can be getting results and the timeline for that, then you're just going to win. So we had to figure out like and really audit all operations and expand all of that stuff. So that was stage one. Once we were comfortable with that, then it goes into okay, let's just turn the growth arm up. Where we made a mistake, and this is critical, especially like if anybody's listening that's an agency owner. Why everybody says niche down is because it freaking works. Like you need to be niche down in terms and hyper targeted and focused. Where we screwed up was we were like, hey, like we have some of the best Google ad experts like in the business working for us. So we know Google ads. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we can take on any Google ads account, right? Yes. Wrong. No, we can't do that. And for a very particular reason. The white label space, like margins for us, like are kind of they're kind of tough because we can't charge too much where it cuts into the other agencies' margins. But and if you're getting into all possible permutations of a Google ad, like now you're doing like Google Shopping, Google for SaaS, Google Local, da 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 da. It's it's not you're not going to be able to learn enough, or you'll be spending too much time on stuff you're not that good at, and everything else kind of suffers, right?
Mm.
So we had what we call smart niches. There are 64 of them. It's actually one of our best lead generating devices we have. It's based off our own internal database of people we worked with in the last 11 years. And so we said, okay, now that we sold a lot of people on Google Ads, it didn't go as well because we were taking like people in like the ERC space, like realtors and just stuff where it's not really designed to work. We kind of got back to basics that we will only take people in these 64 niches. That is it. And they are all kind of in that like service space. So like plumbers, dentists, chiropractors, med spas, roofers, like name it. We have 64 of them that we've named out. They're all people that you don't necessarily need to do the best, but you need to be the first. And you need to answer your phone. But so that's what we really realized, and we're doubling down on that. So we pulled out of taking on any new clients that are outside of those niches in the last like 6 or so months, and we expect it to be harder on the sales team because they're going to be DQing probably significantly more people, but that'll help us on the targeting side of things. But way easier for people on the operations side of things. And if they're able to kind of like do what they're supposed to be doing, that means the client's happy. That means their end client's happy, and that means we're going to retain them for so much longer. And in the agency space or any space that is banking on monthly recurring revenue of any kind, retention is key. Acquisition can come actually second to that. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. And especially if you run into that issue of, the churn rate starts to go up and your acquisition rate doesn't
Mm-hmm.
quite keep up with that, that can be a very quick turnaround in that
Yeah.
business. So I love the focus on retention. Before I want to ask some questions around marketing because it's a brilliant topic, and as you may know, it's not always the topic that everybody in business is very good at. We'll just state it that way. But before I do, I want to kind of double click into a little bit more about the businesses that you serve and the services that y'all provide. So for some of those niches that you had mentioned, kind of dive into one. Just kind of give us what's it look like when you reach out and you're working with a business. Like what does that look like for them on their end as a client?
Yeah. So when we're working with a business after they've closed, like say they just closed their next client, they're like, hey, I don't want to run the ads. I want Invisible to do it for us. First thing we do is we have them fill out a pretty lengthy onboarding form. And prior to that, we say, here's everything we need to know that you need to ask them on the onboarding call that you fill this thing in, and then we take care of the rest. So they fill out that onboarding form. We do, it's going to have things like, tell us about the company, tell us about their offer, make sure we have all like the basic information like their location and other things, and then granting us proper access. Like we need access to their Google Ads account, we need access to their tag manager, things like that. From there, it's we then schedule a 60-minute call with them to say, hey, we'll go through everything, do initial research. If it's in one of our smart niches, we already have swipe copy to work with, landing page examples, all these other fun things that we can start breaking out to, like, here's what we're doing, here's kind of the offer as we see it, here's how we understand the current client. Is this all accurate to you? Yes, great. Then we start building. So we do all the campaign architecture, write all the ads, we do all the QA testing, build them the landing pages. If they're running remarketing ads on the Google Display Network, we design those for them, build a reporting dashboard, and set them up with like click fraud protection and all this other stuff. Just pretty much once they've signed the client and they've filled out that form, they don't have to think ever again about ads. It's done. And then once they goes live in about 6 days. Then we go into monthly management mode. And I can say this almost with certainty that we're the only white label company that is in your ad account every day. I don't think anybody else can say that, but it comes down to how we structured like the business and how we structured the teams. So yeah, we just kind of get into daily checks that are reactive and then kind of more proactive weekly checks based off of benchmarks. And we do weekly cadence follow-ups and then monthly required calls. So that's the key. Like when you're in this business, people are thinking, no news is good news, but no news is never good news in the agency world. You are now just a number on their P&L and can easily be replaced. So we do require monthly catch-up calls, and we won't take clients on who are unwilling to do that.
I love that. Absolutely love that. So let's double click into marketing. I'll just start with the generalized question, and I'll let you kind of
Yeah.
answer it how you want to, and that'll frame up the rest of it. But what would you say is your philosophy behind marketing?
Mm. Um, you need to stay top of mind without being like you have to be underly aggressive top of mind is, I guess, if I were to name it, because you don't want to come off as somebody desperate or somebody that's just kind of just being that like a nuisance. So you need to be making sure that, but you don't also want to be forgettable or forgotten, right? And so you have to kind of make that balance, and that's really going to come down to, like making sure you know like where your client base hangs out or where your prospects hang out, and then working accordingly. So for us, most of our people are on Facebook and LinkedIn. So we're in a lot of different Facebook groups that we're just active in, commenting, making sure that people see us. We make sure we go to any of the niche industry events that we need to be at. If we can speak at it, great. If we can't, just show up, be present, and everybody that's in conference mode is willing to talk and explore, and they're excited and doing that type of work. We have inbound funnels that we work on targeting people like on Facebook and remarketing on Google, trying to get people to really just get on our dang email list, right? So like that's the critical piece. And we have some really solid like lead magnets. So something that you give them a piece of content that's worthwhile in exchange for some information that's worthwhile to you. It's just, like information currency at that stage. We have several of those, and our funnel generally works. Hey, we have this smart niche sheet. You should get it. If you're in one of these niches, we should work together. If you're thinking about getting into one of these niches, we should work together. Our best indicator that someone's going to become, at least jump on a sales call for us, is our 33-minute free course. That's just how do you sell PPC to clients. I think, what is it? I think 9% of the people who take that book a call with us. So it's a pretty good take rate there. And then we stay top of mind in the inbox. We send a weekly newsletter out. It's called The Blink. It's actually going on its second year right now. So that's been really fun to write. But that's an opportunity for us to show thought leadership, show up in the app everybody has on their phone, email, and to also give us a chance to remind them about something, whether it be like, hey, we have a webinar coming up, because we do monthly webinars, or I like calling them live trainings. Webinars sound meh, but we do all sorts of things to make sure people know that we want to provide value. But the big thing for us was to understand who we are, what we sell, and who we go after. And then obviously what we're not. What we're not is a like agency training company, right? The previous owners did lots of paid trainings where it's like, hey, here's your agency kickstart, here's this, that, otherwise. And I get the philosophy behind it, and there's a lot of money to be made in information products. I worked for an information product company for 7 years, and I ran it for 2. So there's a lot of money to be made there, but it's not who we are. We're the people who get things done for people who need something done well, right? So we cut all paid trainings out and focused everything else on, hey, if we can get all this content out, help people out, stand out with this type of stuff, then when they have a client ready to work with us, perfect, we're here. So that's my general philosophy for it.
I love it. And for many of the business owners that are listening right now, and with your experience and expertise really in pay-per-click and kind of building the funnel out from a digital advertising side of things, um, I heard you say a few things, and one of them was, just get people onto the dang email list so that you can
Yes.
remarket to them. You can continue to stay top of mind in different ways in your own database. And we've talked to many business owners, and there's a lot, maybe not a lot, but there's a good chunk of them that think I got to run ads and sell something, or I got to run ads and book a meeting, versus I got to run ads to get them to do something that gets them onto the database, and then I can flood them with emails and remarket to them and do X, Y, and Z. Can you talk a little bit about that for the business owners that this is kind of new to them? They need to get into this space, but they don't know as much. Why is it important to have that opportunity to just get them into a database where you can continue to build relationship over time?
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, like, only like what is it on like digital purchases, digital conversions, what like best in class, let's just use e-commerce right now, is like 2%, right? That means 98% of the people that visit your website won't buy from you immediately. They just won't. So do you just want to call it quits? Like, do you just want to call it quits then? Do you think that it's like 2% enough? It's absolutely not. And just because someone's saying no at a given point in time isn't mean they're saying no forever. They're just saying not yet until they give you the hard no, which you'll get via email. So the idea is find a way, like if they're not going to purchase, like one thing I recommend if you're selling things online, when like you're using like some sort of like cart or whatever, use two-step carts. I used to say to do the one step forever because it had less friction. But on the two-step cart, what you can do is you can have them fill in their information and make sure you get their email address on that one. And so if they abandon on the second step, you can do an abandoned cart email, and then you also have them in your email database, right? I think the completion rate or the drop off rate from a two-step cart in comparison to someone purchasing on a one-step is negligible. So it doesn't matter. And in that case, you're also getting their information. So if you're also of the mind, hey, I'm paying for ads, need an offer, paying for ads, book a meeting. If there's an interstitial step, then you're also to have more at bats to get to book that meeting, right? To get to give that offer, right? So that's why it's so incredibly important. And you don't want to just get someone onto a database and just be like, hey, they're on it, we're done. You're not done. You're not done at all. You need to be making sure that you have a cadence in place to remind them who you are and to kind of grant you the right to ask for something. Excuse me, grant you the right to ask for something from them at some point in time. So that's why it's so incredibly important. The vast majority of people won't buy right away, and you want more at bats. Best way to do it, I don't care what apps are out there, what anything, the best way to do it is with email, like without a doubt. And it's an asset. An email list is an incredible asset for your business. Like that was a factor into like why we purchased Invisible. They had a decently sized email list that was all like pretty well put together and top of mind. Like it wasn't a stale list by any means. So that was another factor there.
That's brilliant. I love it. Before we kind of look to the future, I want to take one small step back and ask you, when you look at kind of this journey so far, and you've kind of already mentioned one mistake that you've made, but is there any other kind of roadblocks or hurdles that come to mind that you had to overcome that's allowed you to continue to get where you are in business today?
And there's so many. Like it's like just trying to pick one's hard. It's not easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it, right? There is a level of just there's just so many different things. I think the hardest is kind of like when to go all in with a bet or not. And there's been plenty of times where I was like, like we should have probably gone heavier on that, right? Where it's like, ooh, I should have sponsored, maybe pushed earlier on with like like this one company that like now they're exploding. I was like, I should have gotten more in on the ground floor with them, done a little bit more. Now it's even harder for me to get kind of like on things with them, which is kind of a bummer, but they're awesome anyways. It's just knowing knowing when to go all in, I think is hard. And I think the other side too, and like the bigger issues that I think we run into, it's trusting but not verifying.
Mm.
um you want to trust your people, you want to give autonomy, but sometimes like you need to just do simple random samples of stuff to be like, is this actually what's going on? I've let things go, I think, for too long, and I think it's just part of who I am. And I'm still newer to the entrepreneur side of things. Like I've been owning a business now for 2 years, despite it being around for as long as it has been, right? And I think for me, I've always been if someone says they're going to do something, they're going to do it to the exact caliber that I expect me to do it, or I expect the team member to do it. And sometimes stuff just falls through. Like you can't expect anybody on your team to care as much as you do about your own business. And if that's a level of buy-in that you want from them, then let them buy in. Like it's
Mm.
that simple. Like so you need to verify even your best people. And the other one is just like, and most of the time when things aren't going right, it's because you didn't communicate it yourself. It's generally like those are kind of the bigger hurdles. And we have an international team, so we have people in the US, Canada, Philippines, and India. So talk about different time zones, different understandings of like basic niches. Like in India, they don't really have garages. So if we have a niche for like garage door repair, we have to kind of like, okay, now we need to make sure that we're teaching them and talking through like these businesses because they don't regularly see it, right? So
Mm.
if I were to kind of sum up that crazy rant I just said, it was make sure to trust your team, love your team, but verify their work from time to time. Um, Make sure that you're communicating clearly, and then like exit within with what are the action items and everything. It's like close with clarity at the end of every meeting, right? We use
Mm.
EOS, we use the entrepreneurial operating system and all of our stuff to make sure we're doing that. And the other is don't expect them to have the same amount of buy-in unless you let them buy in, and that's that.
Beautiful. I love that. So, where do you see things in the next 3 to 5 years? How does the business grow? How does your role within the business change? What's the vision for the future here?
Yeah, man. There's really exciting stuff coming down the pipe. We have a few cool ideas that we're kind of playing around with. The first being like we have a lot of first party data from running Google ads for so long. I think we've spent over $174 million on ads, and over that period of time in very concentrated niches. So we started building internal tools to like further optimize like our processes, and that's where PPC Reveal came from. It was a competitive intelligence tool for like seeing what people were searching for in particular locations. So say for instance, you're in the plumbing niche and you're working kind of like the South. So you're covering like Texas, Georgia, those types of spots. You would just run hey, here's my top 5 like kind of like general plumbing keywords, and then you say I want to see it in Texas, and I want to cover that for like a week. It's going to show you a week's worth of searches because we do the actual searches versus doing like any sort of modeled data. And it shows like, hey, here's the examples of the ads. Here's where they're showing up. Here's the advertiser's visibility during this. Here's what time these things are showing up, and all sorts of like really cool stuff like that. And that was used just internally. And they were like, hey, we can sell this. And it actually got a really good kickstart. But that's just kind of like step one for us. We have all this internal data where we can start saying, hey, like we know the ad copy that's working best. We know the offers that work best. We know the keywords that work best. We know the keywords that don't work. We have the SOPs in place to flag if an account's set up correctly and when it's not. How do we start putting those types of things together as our own centralized unit that we can use to be better at white label and better at just agency services? And then why can't we give that to people as well who don't want white label services but want to be as good as us? Right. So we're doing this very it's almost like concentric circles with what this Venn diagram is for what we're building out. And then in addition to that, we do believe the niche agency space is where it's at. And so we want to kind of prove that over the next year. One of our goals is to spin out just a particular niche agency that focuses on like one niche and grow it to 1 million in less than 12 months. That's the goal. And it's going to use all of the same mechanisms that we've kind of like shared with our partners. It's going to utilize our tech on the back end and the reports from that tech to do all the prospecting for us. So kind of doing a little challenge for us going into the new year to see what we can build. So a lot of fun stuff going on.
That is awesome. That just gets me excited. Like that's like game changer for many businesses out there that just need to. It's hard to figure all this stuff out, and if you can just use all the stuff that's there and all the data that's
Yeah.
there, and have providers that can provide it, it's amazing. So I do want to be respectful of time here. So Justin, I've got a few kind of rapid fire questions I'd love to kind of shift into here, but these will be just kind of fun. First one, when you look at your journey over the last 2 years and even beyond, before buying the business and continuing on from there, what would you say for you has been your key to success?
Gosh, I think it's shipping, no matter what. Like always shipping something. I think so. There's two things. I think always be curious, and don't strive for perfection. And like granted, like don't be kind of like haphazard and like lazy and those types of things, but like just get something out. Like we're our own worst enemy when it comes to trying something new. And when you're trying something new, the fact is you're gonna suck at it. So just suck earlier and then you'll be awesome later. And so that's just been my philosophy. My business partner all the time, like he says to me, he's like, man, you just kind of like, it just kind of happens. I'm like, yeah, I want to try this like LinkedIn. What is it? I was at a mastermind and they were like, hey, this is a cool way to do, to utilize LinkedIn to kind of fill your online events more. I was like, oh, I'm just going to go do that right now. Like, why not? So it's really like, if you get an idea, ship it as fast as you can, report on that and remember what worked and what didn't. It's just just be quick, be nimble, be willing to be wrong. And the more that you do that, the more success you're going to have.
I love that. Um, Kind of along the same line, but I won't let you. I'll let you come up with something a little bit different for this one. Uh, what's one piece of advice that you give to other entrepreneurs out there? You could only give one. Could only leave one thing out there for them to take away from today. What's one piece of advice that you would give them?
You're generally wasting your time on most things. Some the things that you think are important likely aren't. Like do a time audit. Like if you're feeling like you're spinning, your wheels are spinning and just you're not getting traction, but you're just tired, you're burnt out, all this stuff, you're not effectively using your time, even if you think you're the busiest person in the world and you're absolutely effective or most productive person. You're not. And like coming to terms with that and like really being okay with looking in the mirror, like you need to do like that's the big one. I think everybody thinks that like they're like, hey, I'm putting in these like 70-hour weeks and da, da, da. It's like you're not. Come on, like be realistic about it. I know there's some people that are, and props, good work there. But in the vast majority of the people who aren't getting what they want isn't a matter of like time in. It's a matter of useful time or productive time in.
I love that. How about book recommendations? What's one book that either you're currently reading now, or you've read most recently, or just one that's top of mind for you that you'd recommend to the audience?
Um, it's not. It's one I actually just read recently again, and it goes back to just and because really we're pushing the team to learn EOS better. It's there's either any of the EOS books you can probably just read like what the heck is EOS. It's really short and it breaks everything down. Traction's more of like it's longer and just it's there's more to it. Between that or Four Disciplines of Execution is another one I really like. That really gets you start thinking about like goal setting, lagging versus leading indicators on things, and really just about how you can start executing at a high level. So those would be kind of the ones I'd look at.
Excellent. Love the recommendations. Final rapid fire question, then we'll jump into the ending of this thing here today. If you
All
had to
right.
choose just one area in your business, you only get to choose one, where you could take a little bit of magic dust and just sprinkle it all over that one spot in the business, and you wake up tomorrow and it's 10 times better than it is today, where would you choose to put that magic dust?
Ooh, that one's super tough. It's either going to be on. Oh, I'm like really hot on the SaaS product right now, so I'd probably say that. But really, for me, I think it would be if and I think this is more tangible than just be like make our SaaS work. I think it'd be kind of nailing down our like agency acquisition funnel. Like if I were to say tomorrow, if tomorrow I woke up and we were able to perfectly target local service business agencies, like agencies that serve local businesses, I would be the happiest person alive. It is just so dang hard to do it. Which is why it's a lot of just pounding pavement, going to events, being at these types of things because they don't make it easy to find those people on platforms. They're very elusive. So that would be the thing because if I get that right, I could sell literally anything at that.
I love that. That is a fantastic place to choose to put that magic. So for those that are watching, that want a little bit more information, that want to connect with you, that want to see all of the things that y'all are up to, where can we advise them to go for more information?
Yeah, cool. So you can check out invisibleppc.com. That's kind of the main website, the white label agency. You'll learn a lot about us there. You can also just check me out on LinkedIn. It's /in/JT Rondeau. I'm semi-active there. I answer almost all my messages though, and then like every now and then I post a few good nuggets. I used to be hardcore about it, less so now because it takes a lot of effort. But that's my preferred social media of choice. If you were to reach out there, you can also check out ppcreveal.ai. That is the product I was talking about that kind of spun out from necessity for us that we thought would be a nice to have for a lot of folks out there. And yeah, and also like our YouTube channel is getting a resurgence as well. I'll be doing a lot of live funnel breakdowns in the PPC space. My business partner's kind of jumping in there as well on some stuff. I was just looking at it. I was like, "Ooh, hey, look at these video views going up." When it was a ghost town, like we're not. Granted, I mean, we're a small channel still, but now we're actually like, hey, we should probably put some effort into this thing. So we're putting out a lot of good stuff there as well. If you're thinking content wise.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure to put all of that in the video description below. So for those that are watching, make sure you go click it, go check out all of the information. connect with Justin on LinkedIn, send him a message to say, hey, saw you on the Business Spotlight. Great conversation. One of my favorite things with the Spotlight series is that, we're here in Central Texas. Let's connect business owners together. So make sure, take the time, go click, go say hi. Important stuff there. So, Justin, as we wrap up, I always like to end on one very specific question. And that question is simply, what is most inspiring to you today?
Mm, man, I just got back from an event like 2 weeks ago. And what was inspiring, and it was all agency owners there, all agency owners. What was inspiring to me was just the level of excitement and optimism in that group of people of like, they, I'm in it. I'm lucky to be in an industry where people love and care about what they do so much. And that is super inspiring to me. Like just knowing that like the people who I get to so fortunately put myself around are some of the best people I think in business. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Justin, I want to say thank you again for taking the time, for being here, for sharing a bit of the story, a bit about the business, a bit about your lessons learned, and just the wealth of knowledge that you have when it comes to some digital marketing and things like that, that I know will be helpful for other business owners out there. So very much appreciate it and want to say thank you again for taking the time.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.